During the ongoing session of Parliament, BJP MP Nishikant Dubey raised a row with his intervention during general discussion on Union Budget on July 25. Dubey is Lok Sabha member from Godda constituency of Jharkhand. Let's listen to him to understand what's the controversy and then separate the grain from the chaff.
भारत सरकार से ये आग्रह है कि ये राज्य सरकार बांग्लादेशियों को बसाने के लिए आदिवासियों का सत्यानाश कर रही है और इसके लिए वहां राष्ट्रपति शासन लगाई.
2 points come out of Dubey's comments. One, that a demographic change is happening in pockets of eastern India from Bihar to Jharkhand to Bengal, that the demographic change is turning the national majority of Hindu community into a minority in those pockets. He also thought that the reason behind this change is illegal infiltration from Bangladesh. 2, Dubey thought that the affected region, and he named the districts, Santhal Pargana in Jharkhand, made up of districts of Godda, Deoghar, Pakur, Dumka, Jamtara and Sahibganj, Katihar, Kishanganj and Araria in Bihar, Murshidabad and Malda in Bengal. A total of 11 districts be carved into a union territory. If wishes were horses and Nishikant Dubey was granted one, it would turn out to be a union territory with a Hindu minority. But Dubey got panned by opposition for being divisive, for conjuring up a Muslim majority union territory. And even the BJP distanced itself from him, calling his comments private opinion and not that of the party. There's an election ahead in Jharkhand, and the BJP cannot afford to antagonize the state's sentiment by suggesting any bifurcation.
When Parliament is in process, he is making his own statement to divide the Bengal.
मोदी है तो मुमकिन है का चल रहा है, वो जो जी चाहे बोल रहा है, बोलने दीजिए, लेकिन यूनिटी ऑफ बंगाल को वो कभी टाल नहीं सकेंगे.
Before Dubey, some other BJP leaders have also spoken on the same subject of demographic change in the last fortnight. From Bengal BJP President Sukanto Majumdar to Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma and Union Minister Giriraj Singh. Those comments have fallen into a pattern which can qualify as larger Islamophobia that the BJP is accused of following. And frankly, some of it might be true also.
ये मेरे लिए बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा है, इसलिए मैं असम में, बंगाल में हर दिन मेरा असम में मुस्लिम पॉपुलेशन 40% हो चुका है.
But going beyond BJP politics, my focus is on bringing to you a pattern, as I promised, based on India's census figures over the last century and more. These numbers are secular as they are maintained by governments of all persuasion over a century, from the British to the communist-dominated United Front and of course the Congress for greater part since independence. For some graphics, I have depended on the work of Chennai-based Center for Policy Studies, whose director J.K. Bajaj allowed his data mining to be used for this show. First census in India happened in 1881. Since then, the decadal exercise has happened 14 times, the last being in 2011. The data helps create simple graphs and patterns which speak for themselves. While the BJP leaders might want a half-hearted debate on demographic change in the country, the issue has been building up over decades. Infiltration has been a historical factor in states like Assam and Bengal and is increasingly impacting population composition in pockets of Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, even Delhi. The reason why we are focusing on this is because there are deniers, people who say nothing like that is happening. They marshal numbers like fertility rates and development economics parameters like income disparities to prove that there's nothing unusual about the demographics. It's a sensitive issue, and I would analyze the politics behind it, but without passing any value judgment, let's put across the numbers as they are first. A quick run using graphics. For reasons of simplicity, I have clubbed Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism and Buddhism into one unit of Indic faiths or religions that originated in India and have more commonalities vis-a-vis the Abrahamic faiths that traveled to India through the flux of history over millennia. Here we go. In this graphics, if you consider India, Pakistan and Bangladesh as one unit, in the sense that if you consider pre-partition India as a whole, the population of Indic faiths, which was roughly 80% in 1881, stood at 67% by 2011 census figures. Projecting the trend to 2024 could result in a number close to 65%, which means Hindus, Sikhs, Jains and Buddhists, who were 80% of the subcontinental population in 1881, are now down to 65%. The Muslim population of the subcontinent, on the other hand, has increased from about 20% in 1881 to 31% in 2011 and could be closer to 32-33% now. Christians too have grown to more than double their numbers over this period of 130 years. Now let's look at the post-1947 reality. The first census post-independence happened in 1951, which takes into account partition-related mass migrations. So that's our cutoff. In Pakistan, the population of Hindus, which was roughly 20% before partition, reduced drastically to 1.5% due to migration in 1947. Since then, it has remained steady at below 2%, barely accounting for replacement fertility rates. In Bangladesh, Indic faiths accounted for about 30% of the population in territories that became East Pakistan post-independence. In 2011 census, the number stood at less than 10%, which means Hindu population in what was East Pakistan earlier and Bangladesh post-1971 has reduced steadily from 1/3 to less than 1/10 now. Let's run through numbers of how the Indic faiths have done in what is now the Indian Union. The population first showed an increase in 1951, accounting for mass migration in Punjab and Bengal during partition, to 87% from 84% a decade earlier in 1941. But since then, it has been reducing steadily to stand at 83% as per 2011 census. The debate engendered by BJP leaders is not about the national picture by pockets of demographic change. So let's go region-wise. Because Nishikant Dubey spoke of Santhal Pargana, what's the picture like in there? The Muslim population, which was less than 10% in 1951, now stands at over 22% as per the 2011 census. It could be 25% in 2024. The graphics also tells you that while the minority population was evenly distributed across the state in 1951, the growth has been more pronounced in the Santhal Pargana. Dubey is not wrong. He also said that this geography has seen tribal population go down from 36% in the year 2000, when the state of Jharkhand was carved out of Bihar, to 26% now. This could be because of an element of religious conversions to Christianity, which are more focused on tribal populations in central India. Now let's look at the Purnia pocket of Bihar that abuts Santhal Pargana. From 32+% in 1951, it's nearly 46% in 2011, which means it might be 48-49% in the present. Again, in Murshidabad, Malda belt of Bengal, what's the picture like? While in Bengal itself, the minority population has increased from less than 20% post-independence to 27% plus in 2011 and possibly 30% plus now, in Murshidabad, which abuts Bangladesh, the population is more than double at 66%, possibly 70% now. A little nugget. Since 1952, when the first general elections were held in India, Murshidabad constituency has not elected a single non-Muslim candidate ever. Nothing wrong with it. If there's a Muslim majority, it must elect a Muslim candidate. So the secularism argument goes. Okay, so how is it like in the union territory that Dubey imagined? Here we go. Taken together, the 11 districts in Bengal, Bihar and Jharkhand had a Muslim minority population of 30% in 1951, which stood at 45% in 2011. After a decade and more, the number would have easily crossed the halfway mark, making it a Muslim majority union territory electorally if it ever got created. There are a few other pockets of demographic concentration, from western Uttar Pradesh to Assam to Kerala, that can be seen in these graphics. Mewat, for example, in Haryana was about 80% Muslim in 2011. It would obviously be more now in 2024. Similar trends of population concentration along religious lines can be seen in the case of much of the Northeast, where the demography favors the followers of Christianity for historical reasons going back to the colonial times. For example, in Nagaland and Mizoram, the British had tasked or outsourced to the church their education-related responsibilities, resulting in most of the tribes converting to Christianity over decades. Imagine, from being 100% tribal or Hindu till the 1970s, Arunachal Pradesh had become 30% plus Christian by the last census. Similarly, in the Santhal Pargana, the drastic fall in the population of those identifying themselves as tribals between the year 2000 and now could be due to the missionary activity. So that's how the numbers stack up. The likes of Bajaj extrapolate the numbers and believe that irrespective of population measures or development trajectories, these trend lines lead to a situation where by 2070, if not 2060, the followers of Indic faiths, Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism, and Buddhism, might be lesser than Muslims and Christians taken together. But let's not get there and stay put in the present. How does it affect politics? I mentioned that nugget earlier that Murshidabad in Bengal has always elected a Muslim MP since independent India's first Lok Sabha elections in 1952. Similarly, in Kishanganj in neighboring Bihar, but for 1967, when Lakhanlal Kapoor of the Praja Socialist Party had won, the Lok Sabha seat has not seen a single non-Muslim MP. Of the 17 Lok Sabha elections, 10 times it has returned a Congress MP, 4 times the seat has been won by the RJD of Lalu Prasad Yadav, once each by the Janata Dal and the PSP, and only once by the BJP, when Shah Nawaz Hussain won it in 1999 and went on to become a minister in the Vajpayee government. It is not happenstance that AIMIM of Asaduddin Owaisi opened its account in North India via Kishanganj, when in last Bihar Assembly elections, the party won 4 of its 5 seats from the district alone. The demography favors Muslim politics. There's a reason why only BJP leaders are vocal and complaining about increasing Muslim pockets. Their Hindutva politics, focusing on Hindu consolidation, means that Muslims are not going to vote for the party. We have seen from the just concluded general elections that despite a soft push through Pasmanda Muslims and a mathematically provable non-discriminatory governance delivery to Muslims, the BJP saw massive polarization against it in the minorities. The Muslim masses across the country perfected the Karnataka model from earlier in the year, voting to vote out the BJP. Sociologically, politically, economically, whichever way you look at these numbers, they raise an issue which we as a nation and society need to engage with. Why do I say so? Remember Sharjeel Imam of the Shaheen Bagh protests? Let's listen to him.
तो हम हिंदुस्तान और नॉर्थ ईस्ट को परमानेंटली कट कर सकते हैं, पर परमानेंटली नहीं तो कम से कम 1 महीने के लिए तो कट कर ही सकते हैं। मतलब इतना मवाद डालो पटरियों पर, रोड पे, उनको हटाने में 1 महीना लगे, है कि नहीं? जाए एयरफोर्स से, असम को काटना हमारी जिम्मेदारी है, असम और इंडिया कट के अलग हो जाए।
He was talking about a corridor, a pocket of Muslim concentration that stretches from Uttar Pradesh to Bihar to Bengal and through the Chicken's Neck corridor to Assam. So it's not that national security fears are imaginary. This has already been imagined, albeit in the minds of a lunatic fringe. And India is strong enough, both as a state and as a civilization, to make sure that the centripetal wins over the centrifugal. While the interpretations would be political and ideological, the debate on demographics change is rooted in math, in numbers. And I have made some attempt at differentiating between the two. Hope you liked it. You can of course pick and choose based on your own leanings, but let there be a debate. I will contribute to it with these 2 questions of my own. 1. Why is the BJP shying away from a census? It was to happen in 2021, but got delayed due to the COVID disruption. Granted. But there is no reason now to continue to delay it any further. If need be, make the counting of castes part of it, but get the census done. It would blunt the opposition attack, possibly burst some of their myths. 2. Why is the BJP shying away from NRC, a National Register of Citizens? Surprisingly, the issue did not find mention in its manifesto this election. Taken together, the census and the NRC bring about clarity on a host of development issues for the nation, which need the marshalling of data. You can't have a situation when Google knows more about Indian citizens than the government of India. Both are needed, census and the NRC. It's for the Modi government to bite the bullet.